Hey there, welcome to today's episode where we are going to talk about 3 simple ways to practice name writing with your students in the classroom. Learning how to read their name is one thing, right? That's a big step for students to learn to recognize their name. And also learning how to write their name is a whole other big step and something that can be really hard. Some of our students maybe come to school already knowing how to write their name. Many of them will not, and we will want several opportunities for them to practice. I want to talk about opportunities that we can more easily fit into our day on a regular basis because it's the little things that we do each day that add up and make the biggest difference. It's why I love the cutting jar. We'll put information on that in the show notes if you haven't already heard me talk about that, because each day they're building on those scissor skills. And so then instead of having to do one big scissor skill activity once a week, they're building on those skills each day. It's similar with learning to write your name. We want to practice a little bit each day. And I want to say this is really important too, because sometimes we want students to practice something and we'll give them something and it's like, okay, now you're going to write your name 10 times. And maybe we're doing that once or twice a week. Well, I want to encourage you, this is really important. It is better to have them write their name really well 1 or 2 times than kind of slobby and kind of messy and distracted 10 times. More is not always better when we're practicing these skills. We don't need them to do it 100 times in a row. We need them to do it consistently in a fun way that can build their skills over time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, so that maybe it will feel a little less intimidating when you're working on helping students with their name. So number 1, easiest way is having a morning sign-in routine. When your students come in, maybe you're having them check in for lunch with a name tag or whatever your routine might be, I encourage you to add on a morning sign-in before they go play or go do the next thing. This simply means they write their name. I always had like a vertical whiteboard. That surface could also be a different challenge for them, can really help them with writing on that vertical surface. You could use a clipboard too and just have it on a table. It's nothing fancy. They can use their name tag to help them if you have like little cards with their names on them and they need to copy it. But basically, we just want them to write their name and check in for the day. Sometimes using a clipboard and saving the pieces of paper is a great assessment for you to look at in the week, because you can immediately see who maybe is struggling or piecing together letters or who's breezing on through. But a whiteboard is also an easy way to save paper and just erase it and start over the next day. You could just take a picture for assessment. But doing something daily also gives us a great assessment opportunity for our students without having to add in something different to our lesson plans. It's just a quick thing they know to do every single day. So you can use clipboards, dry erase boards, name sheets, anything. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is a way to build in practice with their name. Number 2 is when you are going to have them practice maybe tracing their name or writing it on their own, or maybe they're in a small group with you and you want to work on it more with them, try using a highlighter. So what I mean by this is maybe you are writing their name in highlighter a few times for them. Remember, they don't need to do something, more is not always better. They don't need to write it 10 times. Do it a few times in highlighter and have them trace over the highlighter. This gives a different visual. Sometimes when we have the traditional tracing font, and a lot of things have that because that's what they have, is a lot of the traditional tracing font with the dotted lines, things like that. Sometimes it can be a little hard. Students sometimes, especially early on, might try to copy the dashes, or it's harder visually to see. You can still use them, of course. I still use them. But when you're diving in a little deeper with students, the highlighter really gives them a better visual. It's less intimidating. They stay on top of that highlighted line or inside of it, and it just is a better contrast for them. So if you haven't heard of that or you haven't given it a try, add it to your small groups first, or you can do it with the whole class and see how it goes. It can really be a game changer. This other tip, the last tip, tip number 3, is something that also helps for a classroom management tip, and this is a center sign up. So maybe you want to combine learning to write your name with building responsibility and independence and choice. The center sign up system is great. You probably have centers in your room that are really popular. Maybe it's the sensory bin or the easel they want to turn to paint, and you can only have 1 or 2 kids at a time because that's the only supplies you have. So they want to turn. Now, traditionally, maybe you've always managed the turns. You're like, okay, I'll keep track. I'm going to write down who's next. Here's your timer. I'm going to do it for you. Well, remember, we're building independence in our classrooms. Let's have students do it themselves. They can, even at 4 or 5 years old. They absolutely can. Start a center sign up. We actually have a full post on this. We'll link it in the show notes for if you want to read through it. But basically, you're going to have a clipboard. They write their name when they want a turn. When it's their turn, and they've had their turn, they're going to cross off their name and they're going to go get the next person. They actually learn to do this very quickly because their names are on display so often in the room. You're probably singing good morning songs. They see their friends' names. It's so common for my students to read their name and all their friends' names so early in the year that they typically know, or you can help if needed, but they typically know, oh, it's Juan's turn next. Okay, and they go get the next person. And they know if they want to turn for something that's really popular, they're going to go to that sign up clipboard and they're going to write their name on it. So that's not necessarily a daily practice opportunity for them, but it's another way to build in name writing in a way that's authentic, realistic, without you having to set up an entire other activity. So remember, more is not always better. We want them to do it a few times really well versus tons of times kind of sloppy. If you are needing more name writing support, we have name games and activities for every single month of the school year. This is for your pocket chart activity for getting to know students, for their own individual names. They're all editable for your classroom. We have those inside the Print and Play Club for you. We'll link that in the show notes as well. We've got tracing cards, center visuals, anything and everything you need to further support your students. But I also hope that these tips were helpful. Which one are you going to give a try? Send me a message on Instagram at The Kindergarten Connection. Let me know, and I hope you have a wonderful back to school season. Happy teaching!